Breaking down the Vikings from the perspective of a former NFL General Manager of the Year. It's Jeff Diamond's Purple Report. Presented by your select Minnesota Buick GMC dealers.
Welcome to Jeff Diamond's Purple Report. Happy New Year. Happy 2024. And our show is brought to you every Monday and Thursday during the Viking season, occasionally Tuesdays, such as this week since we're after New Year's. But we'll be back on this Thursday to preview the Vikings regular season finale with the Detroit Lions, and then next Monday to break that game down, and we'll see if the Vikings have a postseason future. And our show is brought to you by your select Minnesota Buick GMC dealers on 1500 ESPN, available 24/7 on YouTube via links from the 1500 ESPN and Score North websites. I'm Jeff Diamond, former Vikings GM, former Tennessee Titans president. Our producer is AJ Fredrickson, does a fantastic job putting these highlights, or shall we say lowlights, together for our show. And wow, it's hard to believe. I would say, first of all, AJ, and again, Happy New Year to everybody. Hopefully 2024 will be a better year for the Minnesota Vikings than 2023 was, if you count the playoff loss to the Giants as part of 2023, and then the regular season that now stands at 7-9, unfortunately, with 5 losses in the last 6 games, after the Vikings had gotten to 6-4 on the season and looked to be in great shape for the playoffs. Back in the days of the Josh Dobbs mania. Remember those days, AJ? Yeah. Those were great days. But not to be late in the season, Vikings not doing well. Quarterback issues. The defense has struggled after injuries to DJ Wanham, Byron Murphy, Marcus Davenport. The offense has struggled greatly at the quarterback position, as we've seen. Offensive line has had difficulties. And Jaron Hall had a very bad New Year's Eve at U.S. Bank Stadium as the Vikings were beaten. It's hard to believe, AJ, that was those were the same Vikings and Packers teams who met on October 29th in Green Bay.
Yeah, it's crazy, right?
Yeah, when the Vikings dominated that day, 24-10, outgained the Packers in that game, 348-270. They had Jordan Love discombobulated with Brian Flores' crazy defense with the blitzes and the fake blitzes. Held Love to a 59% completion rate that day, 229 yards, intercepted him once, sacked him 4 times. But wow, what a turnaround. Different story on New Year's Eve at U.S. Bank Stadium on both sides of the ball, really. And I think the Vikings were dominated in the trenches in the game on both sides, and could not get quality quarterback play in the first half from Jaron Hall at all.
Yeah, you're totally right. And it was something that I feel like I had a little more, I had higher expectations, and maybe that was me being naive for Jaron Hall. We had only seen, a handful of football from him in a professional setting prior to this, so I don't know maybe why I had my hopes up, but I was led astray in whatever way, and the bounces, they just did not go for the Vikings. A lot of it was, you could argue, also self-inflicted. A game that it seemed they're not totally out of it yet. They're clinging on with like a 2.8% chance, according to ESPN, to make the playoffs. But in what felt like and should have been a must-win game, they fall flat until a very late, meaningless touchdown by Johnny Munt to kickstart what was no comeback whatsoever.
Yeah, definitely. And as you mentioned, the playoff possibility, the Vikings need to win at Detroit, have Green Bay lose to Chicago, which is possible. The Bears are playing well. They've won 4 of their last 5. Seattle would have to lose to Arizona, who just won in Philadelphia.
That's true.
And that is at Arizona. And the Seahawks just lost to the Steelers to knock themselves out of a playoff spot, which inserted the Packers into the 7th spot right now, going into that game at home against the Bears. And if those 3 things happen, first of all, the Vikings have to win at Detroit, which I think is very questionable at this stage of the game, even though the Lions conceivably are kind of locked into that number 3 seed, because they would need to win over the Vikings and have both Dallas and Philadelphia lose to the Commanders and the Giants. It's not going to happen. But I don't see Dan Campbell easing up on the gas in this game. I think that, first of all, I think he'd love to sweep the Vikings. I think, second of all, he doesn't want to go in the playoffs off 2 straight losses. And I just think that it's just not in his DNA to let up at it in any way when they have a chance to win a game, especially at home. So I don't think Kevin O'Connell should count on Jared Goff sitting out this game and Amon-Ra St. Brown and Aiden Hutchinson and the rest of the Lions who just beat the Vikings on Christmas Eve, 30-24, in a game where the Vikings battled hard, played a pretty good game, but were done in by Nick Mullins' 4 interceptions in that game. But he did throw for over 400 yards. So I expect O'Connell, who says he's made the quarterback decision already, but he is not going to announce it until he's had a chance to talk to the players, probably tomorrow before practice. I expect him to have Mullins as a starter because of the success he had against Detroit just in the most recent game. What I'd like to see him do is elevate Josh Dobbs to the backup and throw in some plays for Dobbs.
Yeah.
Some Wildcat stuff. Do some stuff with Dobbs and let Jaron Hall sit. He's shell-shocked right now after that performance in the game where he just played terrible in the first half, and it started very early with the interception that he threw behind Johnny Munt, even though if TJ Hawkinson had been in there, he might have been able to make that catch.
Yeah.
And we're going to see that in the highlights shortly. But just so many things went wrong in this game on both sides of the ball. As I said, Green Bay 9 of 14 on third down, including 6 of 7 in the second half. Vikings 0 of 4 third down in the first half, 3 of 10 for the game. Just inefficiency. KJ Osborne, no targets in this game. And he's headed to free agency. He had 8 catches for 99 yards in the last meeting with the Packers on October 29th. And, of course, the big difference in that game was that the Vikings won by 2 touchdowns. Kirk Cousins was playing then, and he threw for 270-plus yards and 2 touchdowns and a over 100 rating in that game. But I think also the big change in Green Bay has been the improvement of Jordan Love.
Mm-hmm.
He is a much different player than what we saw back in Week 8. He has 6 of his last 7 games have been 100-plus ratings. He's only thrown 1 interception and 16 touchdowns in those 7 games, and the Packers have gone 5-2 over that stretch to put them in this position where they're on the cusp of a playoff spot, and they're the youngest team in the NFL. I think that's got to be a concern for the Vikings and the rest of the NFC North, that Love has made big strides in the second half of the year. You give Matt LaFleur some credit, the Packers coach, for his patience and development of Love and the offense. Aaron Jones obviously makes a big difference when he's healthy, 120 yards rushing on Sunday. But the Vikings stopped him cold with 27 yards in the first game, or 29 yards. What's the difference there? Well, no DJ Wanham, no Davenport didn't play last time, but the Vikings just run defense, not as good. The linebackers and safeties not making as many plays. The corners letting guys get wide open. Jaden Reed, 2 touchdowns in the game, and Melton, who was a late addition this season.
Yeah.
And he has over 100 yards receiving in the game. So I'll give credit to Matt LaFleur, but I also take a shot at him for that last deep shot he called, the deep pass with a little over a minute to go.
Mm-hmm.
That rubbed some salt in the wounds, shall we say.
Yeah.
And I think the Vikings are going to remember that and almost cause a post-game fight. And if you notice Kevin O'Connell after the game, a very brisk handshake, no big embrace of LaFleur. I don't think he was happy with that either, even though he kind of didn't make a big deal about it after the game, but he was not happy with that. So let's go to our highlights, lowlights, whatever you want to call it, from the Green Bay game. As you said, AJ, going into the game, we certainly expected more. Kevin O'Connell expected more. And part of the problem was the Vikings' running game, not real effective in this game, only 67 yards against Green Bay, but they only ran it 16 times because they got behind so early in the game due to the miscues by Jaron Hall. So as we start off the game, highlights courtesy of Mike Tirico and Chris Collinsworth, prime time on NBC on New Year's Eve, and the Vikings laid an egg, unfortunately. But early in the game, here's the first big play. The Packers got up 3-0. Vikings get the ball, and Jaron Hall just looking frazzled, I would say, early in the game. And he had guys running open. He had Jefferson. He had Osborne, Addison. But he got locked in on Johnny Munt early, threw this ball behind him, and here's what happened.
Receivers for that group.
And in 7, Jaron Hall throws off the hands, and it's picked off. In and out of the hands of the tight end, Johnny Munt. And one of those corners, Corey Ballantyne, comes up with the interception.
Again, those early game interceptions, fumbles have been a problem all season long with the Vikings now in a predicament where their playoff hopes just clinging to a thread. And Vikings 32nd giveaway of the year in this particular had 2 giveaways in this first half, 32 on the season, which is second most in the NFL. And this was followed up quickly by a touchdown pass from Jordan Love to Jaden Reed, beats Mekhi Blackman. Cam Bynum can't get there to help.
Into Harrison Smith, nosing down to the edge. Here he comes. Protected as well, firing in the middle of the field. Touchdown in the middle, Jaden Reed.
Yeah, as I said, corners, safeties, problem. No pass rush in this game. Danielle Hunter is a guy the Vikings have got to make a big impact for them to be successful on defense. Mm-hmm. He is now sackless in the last 2 games, only 1 QB hit in those 2 games, no tackles for loss against Detroit or Green Bay when he came into week 16, right, leading the league with 21 tackles for loss.
Yeah.
So the lack of production from Danielle Hunter has been noticeable and has been very harmful to the Vikings defense. So at this point, the Packers up early 10-0 in the game. Here is a highlight on special teams. Greg Joseph, early second quarter, a 54-yard field goal.
For 54 for the Vikings. First points of the night.
But the Packers quickly answer with a long drive and culminated with a Jordan Love touchdown run to go up 17-3.
Good strong receiver down here. Love's going to run it and keep it. Get towards the goal and lose the football. He's ruled down by contact short of the goal line. He's got a hand down here as he extends the ball, and it breaks the plane. That should be a touchdown.
That looks like a touchdown to me, too.
That was the correct call by the officials. I did think in this game, AJ, that the officials missed a lot of offensive holding by the Packers. As I reviewed the game tape, just saw a ton of times when they missed holding calls that could have made an impact on the game. Not necessarily would have changed the outcome, but certainly would have made it closer. But to the Vikings' benefit, they also, I think, blew a call on a punt cover by Najee Thompson where he hit the returner too early on the play, and they ended up picking up that flag. So It kind of works both ways. But I saw a lot of holding in the game by the Packers O-line, which did not help the cause. So the Vikings down 17-3. And here, I think, was the biggest play of the game. And Christian Darrisaw was one of the highest-rated offensive tackles in the league the first half of the season. He has struggled in the last few weeks. I don't know what the issue is with Christian, but has not played real well. And Brian O'Neill, the other Pro Bowl caliber tackle for the Vikings, also has had some struggles in the second half of the season against guys like Montez Sweat of the Bears, Max Crosby of the Raiders, and then O'Neill got hurt. But Darrisaw in this game was beaten a couple times, once on an early drive by Preston Smith that forced an incompletion. And here was the really big play of the game where Preston Smith beats him again. Jaron Hall does not have that veteran savvy to sense the pass rusher coming from the blind side. and to make a move out of the pocket or do something or throw it away. And here Preston Smith forces the fumble, which really changed the game.
Just throwing it up to him down the field.
Beat pressure. Preston Smith got knocked it out. Ball is free. And the Packers have it. It's Carl Brooks at the bottom of the pile. Preston Smith came around the edge and made the play.
And that was a killer play because it was followed quickly by this touchdown pass from Jordan Love to Jaden Reed. And watch the lack of tackling by the secondary and the lack of coverage. And Reed storms his way into the end zone.
In the pattern from Love, inside it's Reed again, got away from one. Reed on the run, inside the 10, to the goal line, breaks the plane. What a run by Reed. Touchdown Green Bay.
Come on, Caleb Evans, you got to make that tackle on Cam Bynum, and not to mention earlier Jay Ward and Harrison Smith, and just a disastrous end of the first half. Vikings down 23-3 at halftime. So before we hit the second half, let's talk about our great sponsor, the Select Minnesota Buick GMC dealers. There are trucks, then there's the truck, GMC Sierra, with available features like the V8 engine, the ultimate luxury interior, and of course, the available world's first 6-function multi-pro tailgate. GMC Sierra, not just any truck, the truck. GMC's continued commitment to professional-grade engineering is on full display at your local GMC dealer. Come take a test drive today and see for yourself. We are professional-grade GMC. Just in time for the holidays, well-qualified buyers get 0.9% APR on 2023 Sierra light-duty models, plus no monthly payments for 90 days. See your local GMC dealer today. Length of contract limited, deferred monthly payments for 90 days, excludes residents of Pennsylvania, must finance with GM Financial, down payment required at signing if applicable. Finance charges accrue from date of financing. Some customers will not qualify. Not available with lease and some other offers. Take new retail delivery by 1/31/24. On to the second half. Vikings down 23-3. The Vikings make the quarterback switch at halftime that was expected. Nick Mullins comes into the game. Finally, they discovered Justin Jefferson, who had only 2 targets in the first half. And Mullins starts going to him. Can't find KJ Osborne at all in this game. And rarely Addison. They're certainly missing TJ Hawkinson. We know the talent deficiencies with all these injuries, starting, of course, with Cousins. But the Vikings get in deep in Packers territory, 4th and 4 from the Green Bay 9. And here's a pass play. Again, Mullins under pressure, holds the ball. And I think this is a bad play call. I think they should be trying to get the first down inside the 5-yard line instead of going into the end zone to Jefferson. But here's the result.
Jefferson on the move. Mullins climbs, flips it end zone, incomplete. He was contacted as he got rid of it. And the Packers defense comes up with the stop.
And you notice nobody in the middle of the field in that range of around from the goal line to the 5-yard line where they can get the first down.
Yeah.
But that's the way it went. And again, I thought it was a suspect play call. So a 6-minute drive with no points, very deflating to the Vikings at that point. And then the Packers quickly drive downfield. Well, not so quickly. 13 plays, 90 yards, 8 minutes, and kind of a clock killer. Finally, this touchdown pass to a wide open Melton. And somehow he gets so free in the secondary, it's hard to understand.
Dobbs in motion. Love flips it to the end zone. Touchdown. Bo Melton's got that one.
I don't understand how you can let a rival receiver get that wide open in the end zone when you're working with, frankly, so little of space down there. It's not like they were trying to stretch the field or anything. They're in the red zone. How is there not somebody within arm's length of him, Jeff?
Yeah, I think part of the problem there is they're sucking in on play action because Aaron Jones has been running it down their throat a lot on that drive. But again, just I think miscues in the secondary, the young corners, young safeties not reacting and not getting the pass rush. So it's just a combination of factors that have really kind of taken the defense down from where they were earlier in the season when they were really on a roll and playing really well, especially that run defense that at one point was 5th ranked in the league. And I think that was going into the Detroit game. And now they've dropped down to 9th in the league with a couple of shaky performances. But so at this point, the Vikings are again in a tough predicament, down 30-3. They get a final consolation, shall we say, touchdown pass from Mullins to Johnny Munt.
Get him on the move to try to make it tougher to double. Bit of a run. Mullins pulling now. And there's Johnny Munt. And there's a Viking touchdown.
It feels a little sad to blow off fireworks after that one.
Yeah, exactly right. I think the highlight of the game, AJ, was Kirk Cousins and his son sounding the Gallahorn with their shirts off before the game, and the crowd was cranked up, and everything looked so good. And then, oh boy, didn't go so well after that, unfortunately, for the Vikings. But let's hear from Kevin O'Connell after the game.
Really not much to say other than we got outplayed, and this all. I got to do a much better job, clearly preparing our team to, regardless of circumstance, we have to, we have to play better than we just did. I didn't think it was an effort thing. I think our guys came out with a lot of energy. It was a combination of a lot of things, and early on, execution offensively, could have been much better, and defensively, we put them on the field far too much, and Green Bay had some success on offense to maintain possession of the football. But this is going to be one that we've really got to take a long look at. Starts with me, like I said, and I'm going to be the first one out in front of this thing, fighting to make sure we don't have any more performances like that. Have to get right back to work this week. We're going to find out, with everything being tested within our organization of culture and what we've tried to build here. But in the end, we've got to go back to work and try to improve with the opportunity that we have left.
One of the Vikings veteran leaders on defense, Jordan Hicks, who had been hurt for several weeks and came back and has really not been as impactful as he was earlier in the year. But Jordan Hicks talked about kind of playing with pride in this final game, if it indeed is the final game.
We got another opportunity. It's about pride. It's about moving forward. It's about responding to adversity. And we've got another opportunity, right? And there's a lot of football, to be played next week. So.
Jordan, you guys pride yourself on not giving up chunk yardage, or if you're not giving it up in the passing game, at least stopping the run game. When you guys were losing kind of your footing on all that, what was like the message out there, and what was the issue that on both sides was?
Yeah, I think I need to watch the tape to really see. It's weird. These type of games are weird because it feels like nothing is going right, and so obviously there were issues. Obviously, there's things we need to fix, a lot of things we need to fix. But that's, we've got to watch the tape and see. And it might be multiple things. It might be a couple things. We'll see.
Well, also, Jordan Love is a more improved quarterback than the last time you faced him, right? That
He
goes
is.
hand in hand.
He is. Yeah, he made some good throws, some good decisions. Our defense is designed and built to, obviously stop what they're running, right? And that's we weren't able to execute the way we wanted to.
Yeah, disappointing, definitely, that the defense that was carrying the team for many weeks really has not stood up very well the last couple games in these two division losses that have kind of killed the Vikings' chances, not to mention the Cincinnati game before that, and the Bears and the Broncos and a few others that the Vikings had great chances to win so many of these games. And as I've said often, Kirk Cousins definitely would have made a difference. We know that. But the defense losing some key guys such as Wanham, Davenport, Byron Murphy the last couple games has really hurt the effort on defense. So let's hear from Nick Mullins as he talks about what happened on New Year's Eve and going forward.
It's the life we live. Quarterback in the NFL, you work as hard as you can. Like I said, It's a long journey. Things will happen. You try to play your best, and try to do your best for the team. Like I said, we have a great group of guys here. We all work so hard, and obviously we haven't been able to pull out victories, but just stay resilient, stay strong, keep working, and that's what the Vikings have done this year.
Nick, what was the process of finding out the switch was happening?
Yeah, pretty simple. Just tell you you're going in, and whenever your name is called, you have a job to do, and you do it your best and try to get it done.
Nick, can you sum up this team's psyche going to Detroit with still a chance to make the playoffs?
Yeah, obviously this was a tough one tonight, but it's a week-to-week league, so you got to put your head down, right back to work. We have great men in this locker room. We have a great group, tight-knit group, and so we're going to continue to push each other all around, get better, and that's all we can do right now. So we're excited to rest up and get back to work.
Let's hear from our great sponsor, the Select Minnesota Buick GMC dealers, before we go around the NFL and talk a little bit more about Vikings at Detroit.
There are trucks, then there's the truck, GMC Sierra, with available features like the V8 engine, the ultimate luxury interior, and of course, the available world's first 6-function multi-pro tailgate. GMC Sierra, not just any truck, the truck. GMC's continued commitment to professional-grade engineering is on full display at your local GMC dealer. Come take a test drive today and see for yourself. We are professional-grade. GMC. Well-qualified buyers get 0.9% APR on 2023 GMC Sierra light-duty models, plus no monthly payments for 90 days. See your local GMC dealer today. Length of contract limited. Deferred monthly payments for 90 days. Excludes residents of Pennsylvania. Must finance with GM Financial. Down payment required at signing if applicable. Finance charges accrue from date of financing. Some customers will not qualify. Not available with lease and some other offers. Take new retail delivery by 1/31/24.
So the Vikings head on the road against Detroit in the season finale after a season with a 2-6 kind of dismal record at home, following a season where they only had one home loss in regular season and the playoff loss. They'll have 9 home games next year, so the schedule flips a little bit, which should help them. And I think that'll be a point of emphasis, certainly for Kevin O'Connell in 2024, to play better at home, win those close home games that they lost this year. The other thing I would suggest for Kevin O'Connell, and I'm sure he's doing that, start watching some of these college quarterbacks. Because I watched a couple yesterday, AJ, in the college football playoffs that would look pretty good in purple. And I'm talking about J.J. McCarthy of Michigan and Michael Penix Jr. of Washington, who both won those semifinal games, will meet in the college football final.
And the good news about one of them is you already know Penix looks pretty solid in purple to begin with that Washington color.
That's exactly right.
So why not? Why make him change,
And there's probably going to be 4 to 6 first-round quarterbacks. The Vikings today are in the 12th slot in the draft, pending the results of next week. So they could get a chance to some of those top quarterbacks.
And they are, depending on if they lose and some other stuff shakes out the way it is, they can jump up, I believe, as high as 9th. So if they get to 9th, depending on how the draft looks after the combine, after the Senior Bowl and everything like that, Kwesi might have to shuffle a few things around, wheel and deal, and maybe that 9 becomes a 7 or a 6 or 5.
That's right. And maybe you get a shot at guys like McCarthy, Penix Jr., Certainly, Caleb Williams, Drake may probably be gone, but maybe Jaden Daniels will be there. Bo Nix from Oregon. There's a lot of talent in this draft.
There is.
I think the Vikings definitely need to take a quarterback in the first round, but I think they also need to re-sign Kirk Cousins for a couple of years and go from there. Also re-sign Danielle Hunter, even though he hasn't played great the last couple of weeks. And, of course, the big extension for Justin Jefferson. Yes. But they can work that cap-wise, so it's not going to be too expensive against the 2024 cap. Around the league, the Baltimore Ravens look like the team to beat going into the postseason. They wrapped up the top AFC seed, crushed Miami 56-19. Lamar Jackson, 5 touchdown passes, and looks like he clinched the MVP in that game. The 49ers, 1 top seed in the NFC with their win over Washington. The Eagles are in trouble, losing to Arizona. Dallas is in the driver's seat to get the 2nd seed after their win, which was a kind of a tough win over Detroit on Saturday night, where the Lions had the controversial ending with the 2-point conversion, where where Taylor Decker said he reported the official, but the official said he didn't. And that may also make the Lions a little angry going into Sunday. The Rams were fortunate to escape the Meadowlands with a win. And of course, the Steelers are still alive. Seahawks barely alive after losing that game to Pittsburgh. Vikings take on the Detroit Lions this week. Lions won 30-24 2 weeks ago here in Minnesota. Jared Goff had 257 yards passing in that game, a touchdown pass. Nick Mullins with the 400-plus yards throwing, but the 4 interceptions and 2 touchdowns. We'll see how the Vikings can gather the forces, and we'll see how the Lions approach this game with whether they're going to sit a few guys or not. I expect them to play their starters and then see if they can start pulling a few guys. But it would be nice for the Vikings to finish strong. Stranger things have happened in the NFL than for a lot of things to go haywire and the Vikings all of a sudden win and get in the playoffs. It could happen. It happened for Seattle last year on the final week, but I think it's kind of unlikely at this point, and the Vikings just need to play better this week in Detroit. And we'll be back to preview that on Thursday before the Vikings head to Detroit. And this has been Jeff Diamond's Purple Report, brought to you every Monday and Thursday during the Vikings season by your select Minnesota Buick GMC dealers on 1500 ESPN, available 24/7 on YouTube via links from the 1500 ESPN and Score North websites. This is Jeff Diamond with AJ Frederickson. Everybody have a good week, and we'll talk to you just in a couple of days as we preview the Vikings at the Lions.